Modern airline travel, known for its non-accommodating conditions for passengers such as the Transportation Security Administration, lost luggage, and cramped conditions in coach. However, it didn't used to be this way. Back in the 1920s and 30s, there was actually a golden era of aviation, and that golden era got its start because of the airplane sitting behind me, the Ford Trimotor. Now, the Ford Trimotor actually has its beginnings with a guy named William Stout, who was a cunning aeronautical engineer within the early 1920s. Now, around 1923, this guy sent a telegram to 100 different businessmen and investors, trying to court them to put $15,000 apiece into his new airplane design, the Trimotor. By 1924, Henry Ford had bought a majority stake out of all of the other investors for around $500,000. By the late 1920s, the Ford Trimotor had established itself as one of the most foremost airliners that everybody wanted to fly on. In fact, there are over 100 fledgling airline companies trying to vie for those passenger ticket sales. Now, most of them were literally fly-by-night operations, but the ones that did stick around after the Great Depression, well, they were just small names like American Airlines, Transcontinental Air Transport, which would later become TWA, and of course, United Airlines. Now, back in the golden age of aviation of the late 1920s, airline travel was something that people would look forward to. They dressed up for it, in fact, and for good reason. You were treated like royalty. You actually had leg room, first of all, and every window seat was also an aisle seat. The Ford Trimotor also set some pretty astounding records for a commercial airliner. In 1929, Charles Lindbergh flew one of these airplanes down to Mexico, and later on, Amelia Earhart did too, up in the Canadian Rockies. Now, you have to understand that people were kind of apprehensive about airline travel in the 1920s. Aviation had a pretty bad stereotype with all the traveling air shows and all the barnstormers doing rolls and loops and occasionally killing themselves. Now, America's first transcontinental flight wasn't exactly non-stop. Your trip would start in New York, where you'd take a train to Columbus, Ohio. You would then pick up a Ford Trimotor on your way to Oklahoma. Then you pick up another train to New Mexico, and then another Trimotor to Los Angeles. Tragically, the Ford Trimotor would be rendered obsolete by scientists at the Langley Research Center. Turns out that during wind tunnel testing, they discovered that having the landing gear on the outside causes a hell of a lot of drag, and then the engines don't have cowlings on them. And that's why after 1932, almost every airliner looked the exact same.
Okay, we finished our climb check. Now it's time for a Chesterfield. Oh boy, this is the life.